Okay. Hello to everybody who is joining. We're just getting set up and getting our speakers on stage. So thank you for your patience while we get this going. Hi, Mom. I see my mom just signed on. Hello, artists. So good to see you all. Okay, we have Steve. Great. Steve, you're on mute, just FYI.
Hi.
And
Yeah.
okay. All right, Jennifer, I just promoted you to panelist and you're gonna be rejoining us. Perfect. Okay. Fabulous. Hello. We've got a
Hey, Nisha.
okay. So I am just going to, okay, we've got chat going and we have some Q&A. Kelsey, if you wouldn't mind monitoring Q&A and chat, that would be extremely helpful. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm sure that more people will be joining and coming in, but I'd love to get started and introduce myself and everybody who's on stage right now. So it's really great to have you all here to be talking about Sochi Art, NFTs, and the other avatars. I'm really looking forward to introducing you all to these fabulous artists who we have joining us today, who have been working so incredibly hard for the past couple of months, putting their work together for this project. And I think it's going to be really interesting to get to hear more about their practices, the approaches that they took in preparing all of the work. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Throughout this, please feel free to drop questions into the Q&A or into the chat. Comments are welcome. We'd love to hear if there's anything specifically that we can answer for you all. So to start it off, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Monty Preston. I'm the manager of art advisory and curation at Sochi Art, and I was the lead curator on this project. So Sochi Art, for many of you who may not be familiar, if you're coming to us for the first time and you're just introduced to NFTs in this project and thought, hey, what is this? This is so cool. Sochi Art is the world's leading online art gallery, and we represent emerging artists who are located all over the world. We allow artists who may be in remote locations or outside of major city centers to have a portfolio of works available online and share their voice and their art with collectors. And one of the things that we offer at Sochi Art are art advisory services. So any collector anywhere, whether you're brand new to collecting art or you're very experienced, you're welcome to work with one of our curators for free, who can help you learn about new types of art, find work specifically for a location in your home or your office, and generally just increase your appreciation of art overall. So part of our mission is to support emerging artists, and Saatchi Art entering NFTs is really an evolution of this mission. We really believe that NFTs have so much potential for creators to have ownership over their work. There's also so many benefits when it comes to thinking about secondary sales and royalties that artists can receive on their works in the future when they are resold, especially if you're an emerging artist. You may sell an artwork for $500 at an early point in your career. And if you go on to become very successful, if that artwork then later resells for $50,000 or $500,000, typically in the traditional art world, artists don't see that benefit. So we are very thrilled to be kicking off Saatchi Art's entrance into the NFT space with the Other Avatars project. And that's what we're here to talk to you all about today. So for this project, we asked 154 artists to contribute to an avatar project. And they are all working in their own style with their own practices in various mediums, ranging from painting to photography to digital animation. And everybody is approaching this project in their own way. And I'm really excited to be here with 3 of these artists. We have Nikolina Petolas, we have Steve Kalinda, and we have Jennifer Warren, who are here to talk to us about their experience during this project and their practices in general. We also have Kelsey, who is our marketing manager, and she's going to be helping field questions. So not an artist, but a wonderful addition to the team to help us today. So I think to introduce everybody, I'll give like a really quick intro, and then it would be great if you guys could all, jump in and talk a little bit more about yourselves. And I have some questions to kind of guide us along in the conversation, but, feel free to sort of take it in any direction that you want and share what you'd like to about the project, because I think that your perspectives are really valuable here. So Jennifer, I'd like to start with you. Jennifer Warren describes her creation process as a transformative practice that's very necessary for self-exploration and acceptance. And she's primarily self-taught artist and also studied at the Marchut School of Fine Art in Provence in France. As a Black artist working today, Jennifer is heavily influenced by the Black Lives Matter movement, and she's exhibited her works at the Other Art Fair in Chicago and was also selected as one of Sochi Art's Rising Stars in 2020, which is one of our more prestigious awards that we offer to our artists. Jennifer, if you could, maybe just say hello, let us know where you're calling in from today, and tell us a little bit about your practice before we dive into more.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jennifer. Thank you so much for the introduction, Monty. Like, wow. So I'm calling in today from Chicago. I moved here about 3 years ago. It's very cold today. Yeah, I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Great, thanks so much. Okay, we also have Nicolina. Hey, Nicolina, could you pronounce your last name for me? Because I'm never 100% sure where the syllabic emphasis is.
Yeah, you're not the only one. It is Petolas.
Petolas. Okay.
Yes, even people in Croatia have problems with that because it's kind of Greek, I think. So
that was my thought too. I thought maybe it's Greek, but I know she's in Croatia. So okay, yeah. Thank you. So Nicolina is an internationally celebrated artist. Her practice spans photo collage, digital art, oil paint. She works in acrylics. Her work has garnered multiple international awards, and she's shown in numerous galleries and museums in Europe, the USA, and Asia. Some of her clients include Salvatore Ferragamo, as well as Marriott International, and her NFT works can be found on Super Rare, Foundation, and Maker's Place. Nicolina, where are you calling in from today?
I'm in Zagreb in Croatia, where I was born, and thank you for this really brilliant introduction. Now I have to earn this in this interview. And I want to say everyone who joined us, and to Steve and Kelsey and Jennifer, hi.
Thank you. Okay, and last but definitely not least, we also have Steve Kalinda, who's joining us. And Steve is a self-taught graphic artist who works across multiple media. His works have been exhibited extensively across London since 2017. In the NFT space, he goes by Stevo Cappuccino, and his NFTs can be found on Showtime, where a portion of his proceeds are contributed to Mind Charity in the UK, which is an organization to support men and teens who are suffering from mental health issues, which is an area that Steve's very passionate about and a big advocate for. So, Steve, where are you calling from today?
I'm in London. Yeah, right now I'm in London. Home. Yeah, and it's not as cold as it is in Chicago. I don't know if it's cold like that in Croatia, but yeah, yeah, excited about this, and yeah, can't wait to see how it goes.
Fabulous.
I'm super grateful to be here.
Thank you. Okay, great. So I'd love to just dive in and start asking you all some questions. My first question would be really, when did you first start creating art, and how did that evolve into becoming a professional artist? Steve, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. When did I start creating art? Ever since I was young. Sketching on paper, you name it, and never took it seriously. And when I moved to London, that was like 99. I also never really understood what it was until, say, I think 2007. Oh no, 2008. I enrolled on a film course, and that's where it started to evolve. And I was studying film, but I also just, my drawings kept becoming bigger and bigger. And then and I took a job. I also did finance, so so I took a job in finance to kind of get my cash flow up for my film. And while I was doing that, I had an iPhone 5S, and I started to dabble on digital art, and I took it seriously, taught myself Photoshop, Illustrator, you name it. And yeah, the result is, yeah, it's now it's serious. I'm earning money from it. Behind me is two of my art pieces from my last exhibition. Yeah, it's that's how I started. Yeah, I kind of, it found me rather than me finding it. Just kept chasing it.
I think it's a pretty common story for, a lot of artists to think that, this isn't really something I can take seriously or pursue and make a living. As you said, you were doing finance at the same time to fund your art. But it's really wonderful that you're now pursuing it full time. That's really great. I'm so interested to hear more about how you work on your iPhone, as you just mentioned, as one of your sort of tools and mediums.
Yeah, yeah. I think I started with yeah, as I said, iPhone 5S, and I was using, I can't remember, there was a bunch of apps. One of them was called Be Funky, and then from there, Adobe sort of upgraded their apps, and they had Adobe Draw. This is before Procreate and Fresco, if some of the people on the chat might know them. But yeah, I started to really do amazing things. And then what happened is there was a cloud system where you could transfer the work you have on your phone to the computer as a vector. And then obviously you can enlarge it, print it in high scale. And yeah, so when I started posting on social media, the reaction was incredible. And then I started doing logos, CD covers, album covers, but I never actually told people that it was on my phone that I actually started drawing these, sketching these, and till today I'm still doing it. In fact, the art pieces behind me, they started on my phone, and then I just took it to Photoshop to kind of give it more sort of texture and add more style to it.
So it sounds like technology has had a really huge impact on your practice in general as it's developed and new tools have become available. You've been able to expand your practice and try new things. I'm interested to hear, what your thoughts are about NFTs from an artist's perspective, and, why you were interested in becoming involved with them.
Yeah, NFT for me was the first time I heard of it. A friend of mine sold these first NFT just randomly, and I started. I think that was 20. Don't quote me on this. I think 2021. Anyway, just before Bebo had sold these pieces for 69 million. So just before that wave went crazy, and I started doing my research, and I realized, yeah, this is where art should be going. This is, technology for the first time is helping artists, and I think, yeah, for anybody, but particularly the artists, because anybody can jump on the NFT game, which is a fact. But I think for artists, it's like, it's a big win, to be able to sell a piece of art, and then doesn't matter how much he sells, whether it's less or more, you still get a royalty. So that's great, and I love that. It's time we get back to, it's time artists actually win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the technological innovation is really bolstering the creative economy, and it's fabulous that so much more of that money is going back into the hands of creators. So we're really excited about it at Sochi Art for that reason. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Nicolina, can you tell us a little bit about when you first started creating art and how that evolved into becoming a full-time artist?
Well, I started somewhere in my teens. I drew a lot, also experimented with painting, and I read also books about art and was interested a lot in it, but I didn't have the opportunity to pursue art as a career at that time. It was my country came out of the war maybe 2 or 3 years before that, so it really wasn't the time to get into art. But some 10 or more years later, I decided to get more into photography, and I bought a lot of books and read tutorials, and I experimented with macro photography and still life and landscapes and nature, even portraiture. And I also loved to experiment with graphic software. So I started to work as a graphic designer, and later on also as a commercial photographer. And somehow one thing led to another. I wanted to use this photography and graphics to start to create my own personal stories. That was something I really wanted to do. And I think 10 or more years ago, I started to develop my own personal bodies of work, and one thing led to another. It became I developed more and more artworks, and got noticed by one traditional art collector. He was collecting fantastical arts for 30 years, and he thought that I should exhibit with a surreal circle of artists in Germany and Europe, and he connected me with them. So I started exhibiting my works with them, and later on in Italy and Portugal, and so on. I started with exhibitions, and it is how it rolled out.
Very cool. It's so nice to hear that you had a really strong patron sort of early on who was able to, facilitate more exhibitions and really encourage you to get going. That's really nice.
Yeah. I was really happy when he contacted me. I couldn't believe it. He really liked some of my works, and I don't know, but of course I also tried, and I also applied to many art competitions and to exhibitions, and it is really a lot of effort too. It's not all luck.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much a full-time job just to, market yourself and do all the whole application process and everything. So, and so you mentioned that photography was a big part of your practice, and I believe it currently still is. The works that you make are these surreal images, and we will take a peek and look at some of them later. But what are your primary mediums today?
I primarily work as a digital artist. My works are digital composites, so they are created from my photography, but also illustration and digital painting. So this is the majority of my works are in this technique, but I also enjoy oil painting very much. But unfortunately, I don't have that much paintings, but I hope I will in the future, because I really enjoy that too. And photography is still, I have a database that I collected in the past 15 years, I think like 200,000 photographs that I use. Wow. That I use in my work. So I prefer to use my own materials. It is very important to me to use my own photos for as a references, as a starting point, and also as part of these artworks, because each of these little pieces has its own story to tell to me. Well, maybe not to the viewers, but I enjoy that very much, and I often travel in search of locations, and well, that is my primary thing to do.
That sounds very fun. So you're a little bit more of an active NFT artist. You've been creating works for a while. As I mentioned, you're on Super Rare and Foundation and Maker's Place, and you're pretty well established in that space. I'm wondering, you mentioned that you had done a lot of commercial work previously to make a living, and I'm just wondering if, you are experiencing any difference just being able to create NFTs and sell your digital works in that format, and if it's, you know, impacted the need for you to work for, you know, brands and take on commercial clients at all?
I first heard about NFTs somewhere in I think late 2019 from one amazing painter that I admire. And I was really interested to see what it was. So I clicked on his links. He was sharing his work on Super Rare and Known Origin and Maker's Place. But I had no idea what it was. It was really so abstract to me, like 𝘈𝘐 and gas and Ethereum, Etherscan. It was mumbo jumbo to me at that time. And in 2020, I had a really major commission work that lasted for many months, and I had no time to get into NFTs because it really it requires a learning curve to get into that. It's not something you can comprehend if you've never seen what it is before. To become an artist and to release as NFTs in one day, it takes some time. So somewhere in the beginning of 2021, I started to learn more and read many articles and Twitter posts and everything. And that is when I entered the NFT space. But it is also a lot of work and also a lot of marketing to be an NFT artist. It's not just that you can go into it and think that things will happen. It requires a lot of work, and many NFT artists are on Twitter, I think, like 18 hours a day or so, the whole day. Yeah, but I still enjoy NFTs and traditional art too. I think that these two worlds are manageable. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, Jennifer, I would love to hear how you first started creating art and what the evolution to becoming a professional artist looked like for you.
Well, I would say that my start was very similar to Steve's. I started when I was a kid. It was my favorite pastime. I love to make up stories. Like I like to just write little stories and draw pictures to go along with them. I loved building things. I was like very much a maker type of kid. And I never really took it seriously until college, until I went to the Marshute School and learned how to oil paint. And then that's when I was like, oh, wait, this is really something, like, I think I should be doing this. And so then that's when I actually decided to like really pursue painting. And I only spent a semester there. It was kind of like a break from my normal studies to go there. And I just kind of came back with what I knew, like what I learned, and like got the materials and just went from there and started teaching myself different techniques using pictures from other artists that I admired, Van Gogh being one of them, to like just try to copy and figure out what they did and like kind of just learn. So that's been doing that for about 12 years. And yeah, oil painting is my main medium. So coming up to now with NFTs, it's very interesting because when I first learned about NFTs, sorry, let me rewind. I'm actually technically not yet a professional artist. I have a 9-to-5 job, so I do art in my free time. I call it my night job because it's like I do it at night pretty much on the weekends. So all I do is work and paint. So, but yeah, so NFTs, I was approached earlier in 2020 by a startup company in the UK that wanted to have a conversation with me about possible like representation through their new platform. When we had a conversation, they were like, oh, you know NFTs? And I was like, I don't know what that is. And so I'm like, I guess I have to figure out what this is. Long story short, I didn't end up going along with them. I just kind of let it go because I was like, this doesn't really seem like it's something that would be good for me, as like I'm not a digital artist at all. And so I kind of just like let that go and worked on other things. And then Saatchi approached me about doing this particular project. And, you know, after I had spent months like learning what I could about NFTs and like listening to podcasts and reading articles and talking to friends who were also like trying to figure it out. So by the time I got approached, I was like, oh, I know what this is. Like, this will be interesting, because I'm sure, you know, originally having thought that I wasn't, that like my art form wasn't really for this platform, I'm like, okay, you guys must have asked me because there's a way. So yeah, I really appreciated all the information. I kind of felt like, you know, you told me everything I needed to know to pursue this. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. This is gonna be a challenge. It's gonna be fun. And it really, really was fun. Now I'm like, oh, this is how you do it. So, you know, I'm looking forward to continuing to create NFTs from paintings after this.
Awesome. That's so great to hear. I'm really glad that you had fun. And for anybody in the audience who isn't aware, so as Jennifer said, she's an oil painter, and for her avatars, she actually hand painted every single avatar that she created, which was such an incredible accomplishment. And I just remember seeing the works in progress as they were coming through, you know, every week, and being like, wow, I can't believe you just did this painting in like a matter of days. And, you know, it was a really, really amazing thing to witness. So I'm actually going to pull up some samples of everybody's work. And then what I'm going to do is ask you all to talk a little bit about your approach for this project and what the experience was like for you. So hold on one sec, bear with me. Okay. Oh wait, sorry, one sec. We're getting there. Got a lot of windows. Sorry, everyone. All right. Okay, so let's check out some of your work, Jennifer, while we're on the subject. So here's a great shot of Jennifer in her studio. And here are examples of your work. Do you want to share anything about your particular style or subject matter?
Sure. Yeah. So these paintings, they're very interesting that you chose these. So now we're in 2020, when the lockdown happened, I feel like that was such a pivotal point for a lot of people, and you know, people who are artists, like just being locked in your home. So that really changed what I was focusing on at the time. Typically I was doing paintings that were more like imaginative or like fantasy. And then once, you know, a lot of things happened in the US, like with George Floyd's death and just so much unrest, I decided to like reshift my focus and turn to doing some portraits, because I wanted to see Black people more in art. So I started with my self-portrait, which is the one, it's on my left. I assume it's that for everyone, but and it was the first portrait actually that I've ever done since learning how to paint. And yeah, it was a really transformative process for me to do that painting. And then once I did it, I was like, wow, that was really introspective. Like I learned a lot. I wanted to keep doing it. Also, I did it during lockdown at the beginning, when I felt like I didn't know what was going on. There was like so many things that were like, we didn't, you know, we were in the dark about so many things. We didn't know what was happening, and we were just kind of, you know, isolated. I know I was isolated because I lived by myself. So I was just like, okay, I'm trapped. Like I need an outlet, and this was that. And then the second one, it's another self-portrait, but it's an expressionist self-portrait. So this one started a little bit later after the one on the left. And it was more like, you know, still things are still happening here that are just insane to me and like so hard to process, and it's just hard to accept. And you know, just going through all of that, I needed to like continue to like try to process what was happening. So I decided to do this self-portrait, which actually took me most of the year, because each flower is individually painted. in the background. So I just was like, I need something tedious. I need something that's going to take my, attention of like, and just focus it. And this was that. And so, yeah, that's where these came from.
Thanks for sharing that. I think it's so great to hear the story behind the work. It really, helps people understand and connect with the pieces. So that's really fascinating. And then here's an example of one of your sort of surrealist landscapes, right?
Yeah, so this one was actually pre-pandemic. I feel like time now is just kind of like, was it before COVID or now? So this was before. So yeah, this was more of like what I was describing as like some of the more fantasy type work. This one, it's more like a landscape, and it's the pink parts are like flowers. So it's like if you imagine like a land with like flowers and some crevices like water, and just like rolling mountains and then pink clouds. But one of the themes I keep going back to is like this group of people, and I call them ant people. They're the little black dots, and they're just kind of running around like minding their business, doing their thing, but actually they're like draining this enormous being that's like the pink thing. It's actually a huge face, like a head that's like stuck in the ground. Sorry guys. And they're basically taking from it to like fuel whatever kind of lives they live. They've got a whole thing set up with like, their ties and their ropes and their needles and things like that. And just kind of like, they've got something going on, completely oblivious to like, you as the viewer being like, what are they doing down there? And yeah, this is kind of just like an example of like, there's this giant, beautiful creature that they've just decided to use for their own like life energy source.
Wow. Very cool, fascinating. Kelsey, I see.
Jennifer. Yeah, we got our first question.
Oh, okay.
Someone was wondering how big your paintings are.
So I would say they're pretty large. Both of the portraits that Monty showed previously are 4 by 5 feet each.
Okay.
So yeah, 5 feet on the long edge, 4 feet on the top edge. Sorry if feet are not your measurement. This one is kind of similar in size. It's 5 feet on the long edge and then 3 feet on the short side.
Wonderful. And then there is a question for Monty. We can always hold it to the end, but someone is curious about the next NFT project, if it's planned and if there is a topic.
Okay, yeah, let's circle back to it. But yeah, I'm very happy to talk about that. Okay, so Jennifer, I just want to show a couple of your avatars. Oh gosh, where are they? Here we go. Here they are. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about the work and like how you approached the project, right? So general context for everybody, what happened was we approached these artists and we said, hey, here's a brief. We're all going to make avatars based on Van Gogh's self-portraits. And the reason that we chose Van Gogh, there were a bunch of reasons, but we felt that he was a really good figurehead for sort of capturing the spirit of living artists who are working today, and also NFTs and how they're sort of struggling for acceptance by the mainstream. Van Gogh was really underappreciated in his time, but he has since inspired generations of artists to date. One of the really great things about Van Gogh, and one of the super key parts of this, making this whole project happen, was that we needed to work with an artist whose work was in public domain, so that all of our artists, abstract artists, people who aren't necessarily figurative or portraiture painters, would be able to participate, collage artists, etc. So we provided a brief to the artists, and many of them are on the call today. We provided a brief to the artists and said, hey, here are some general guidelines. create some avatars of Van Gogh in your own style and practice. And this is an example of some of the work that Jennifer did. So Jennifer, I'd love to hear what you have to say about how you approach this.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you chose these. Definitely two of my favorites. So it was interesting. I think when you guys approached me about this, I was like, oh, this isn't very much time and I'm supposed to create like at least 10 paintings. And I just kind of like had this short freak out moment. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And when I thought about it, like, and especially reading all of the prompts and everything that were provided for us, I was thinking, okay, this is like a digital art space. As someone who's not a digital artist, I've wanted to try to approach it from like trying to make my practice as much like a digital artist's practice as I could. And I know that one of the suggestions was that you take one piece and then do it and then photograph it and then add to it and build to it and, things like that. But as an oil painter, I was like, I can't even do that. Like, and I'm not a professional photographer. I don't own a camera. I'm like, I don't have a system for that. So like right away, I was like, it's gonna be at least 10 individual paintings. So I gave myself a week to kind of like freak out and plan. And I realized like, okay, if I use the template, because we were provided with a template that showed us basically like where the head and the shoulders should go, like basically a circle and a rectangle in a certain spot on a square surface. And so I was like, okay, the best way for me to approach this is try to make it in a way that is just easily repeatable over and over. Meaning I don't want to start every single painting with trying to figure out where Van Gogh's image is supposed to go. Like I have to have that done from the start. So I started by just, taking that template and fitting it to the canvases that I bought, which were all 18 by 18 inch canvases. And I'm terrible at math. Even at my age, I couldn't figure out. I tried to do ratio to draw it, and no, it didn't work. So I just had to take that template, blow it up to 18 by 18 and print it out in pieces, piece those pieces together, and then cut out the like head and shoulders part. And that had a little, I actually still have it, but had a little like, head and shoulders guy that I just laid on each canvas and in the center and traced it. And it's like, okay, that's where it goes. And so that part in itself, it sounds simple, super difficult.
Not sorry to interrupt. I just like for so many artists, everybody's practice is different. And so doing something that's like out of the, you really have to come up with a new approach and like figure out how to do the layout and like just thinking about all of these different elements. It's not necessarily something that's part of your regular practice. So it was just so impressive to see you create these really phenomenal paintings.
Yeah, and I surprised myself. I'm saying I didn't know that I could do this. I didn't know that this is how you do it, or how I could do it. So once I got all those templates on the canvases, then I'm like, okay, I know where they go. I chose the portraits that I like were resonating most with me that I wanted to like kind of take and like mess up. And I printed those out. I sketched them into the space that I gave myself on each canvas, and then started with just like a light painting sketch, like just like lines, so they all look the same for all three of the portraits that I chose to work from, like the skeleton, this one where he's almost bald, and then the other one with the hat on his head and bandaged ear. And I just kind of just kept doing these sketches over and over on all the canvases. And then it was fun after that. So like once that was done, I was able to sit down and like look through the traits and make little sketches of like what I thought each one would look like with different traits. Like, oh, what if I throw a hat on this guy? Or like, what if I put these glasses on him? Or, what if I like throw, an apple in that person's mouth, or, things like that. And just like did all these sketches and then decided which ones I liked the best. And then I started working on the painting from like each of the templates that I had. So I like quickly went through 10 paintings, and I was like, oh man, like that was actually like really fast. So I just went ahead and did 10 more templates and kept doing the same process where I'd sketch out, like look at the traits, like kind of study like what I could do with them to like make them like different or interesting or just portray them in different ways. And I know communicating with you, Monty, was like super important because I was just like, I can't, like, if I mess up, I can't like erase it. Like, it's just, you know, there's ways to fix it, but it's like a setback. So I was like, I don't want to have that happen. So like, it was like, Monty, you were so helpful with this like through the whole process. Just would be like, oh no, you're good, you can do that. And so once I got all the paintings to a point where I had like a Van Gogh portrait on there and I had certain traits on there, I had to let them dry. And then I came back and I actually worked on all 20, like for the second or third time. Like each painting I had to do like 2 or 3 times over because oil paint takes time to dry. You need time to go back and add more things to it, especially with some of the things like the toothpick on the left painting. And, you know, you can't just, if his face is wet, you can't just like put it on there. Yeah, so it took a lot of planning. It took a lot of like just patience and thought. And like, once I got to like the last part where I was like, okay, they're all done now. They all have enough traits. Like now I have more time. I can just do fun things. Like that's where I got, you know, into the crazy backgrounds and like just adding more details, adding in like more little traits like tattoos and things like that that I maybe didn't initially plan on including. And also another thing that helped was like, I decided to follow some NFT accounts just to see like what some of these other projects, like avatar projects looked like just to really get an idea of like what you guys were envisioning when you decided to do this project. And I found the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which I think for me, that's like, oh, okay, this is kind of what they were presenting when you decided to do this project. So that helped me see like, okay, each one is like I could do this method. Of course, there's so many other ways to create the avatars, but for me, I was like, okay, this is actually a good way to execute this project. Like,
I think that's a really good point, right? Like for many of these avatar projects that are so popular today, they are generative. And for looking at, you know, what the traits are, we chose a bunch of traits that would pay homage to those projects and really play with them in a fun way. And, you know, it's really cool that for you as a painter, you know, thinking about the way that you approach trait selection versus what an algorithm would choose, right? It's sort of like a random output. And these are instead really artfully painted avatars that have like a lot of thought when it comes to which combinations of traits that you put together to create these really fantastic pieces. And I bet if we, you know, go and ask Steve now to talk about his process for this project, you'll hear a completely different way of approaching sort of the overall task. So Steve, I'm going to share some of your work as well. Hold on one second, everybody. Okay. All right, so here are some examples of Steve's work. I've got a couple here. Steve, I'd love it if you could just talk a little bit about, you know, your approach in general, and then when we look at your NFTs, how you maybe adapted that to this particular project.
Yeah, thanks for that. By the way, Jennifer, your work's outstanding, just saying that. Yeah. How do I approach? So as I said, these two again, I started on my phone. So what I do is, you know, it's my iPhone, so I'm using it anywhere I am. I could be on the train, I could be in a car, I could be on the bus, and I love walking or being in public transport. And so what I do is I just sketch out silhouettes. For some reason, I love silhouettes. I love the shape. And I have I don't know how many now. I probably have a collection of about 2,000, just different silhouettes. I just keep drawing them. And I'm a big fan of Pinterest, so I just go through Pinterest looking for silhouettes. And also I'm a huge fan of Matisse. You know, the blue silhouette. sort of painting. I was super inspired by that. And yeah, so from there, what I would do is I would pick one. So the one on the left, which is a collection called Shape of Emotion. I was sort of, I guess, experimenting is the one thing, because the way I approach my work is I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what, I'll stop when I know I'm done. I love this, and move on. So if I could talk about this, I wanted to capture a texture that helps the emotion I felt when I drew the silhouette. And interestingly enough, the pink is just a basic pink, which I love. It's really just, I don't even know exactly the pink color. I can't remember. I used to know the exact pink I used there. But what's interesting is the texture on the body. Now, believe it or not, that's actually grass. That's grass.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's grass, because the way the shadows just fell on it, and I was like, wow, that's like skin. And then I played with it, and then it all came magically, and it's like it's like a huge marriage of just everything, and the emotion just was there, and I just stopped, and so that was the approach for this one.
Very interesting. I had no idea that was grass. That's so illuminating. And then you also create NFTs, and you have this series of sort of skulls. Can you talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, sure. So these actually were the first sort of NFT, my first time creating NFT, and they were from my first collection of art. And I've sold a few of these, as in physically. And the work is actually very personal. It's I'm from Rwanda, and if you know the history, in '94 there was a genocide, and I studied the genocide. I wanted to know everything about it, and just going through pictures and stuff, I kind of got a little bit depressed, and because it's a lot of strong image once you dive into the history of it, and it's kind of like the Holocaust, but that happened, but in Rwanda it's in '94. And anyway, I started drawing skulls, but I wanted to make it. I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I remember I was so obsessed with Alexander McQueen, his work, and there was another painter. He's Swedish. He's from London, and yeah, it was how they were using a gun, and then using a beautiful palette of say flowers, and then just combining the two and giving a different meaning. So I wanted to do that on my own, and I achieved these images, and then when I had to do NFT, create them as NFT, I sort of added the motion. So on the one on the left, as you can see, the flowers and stuff, that's kind of like the last touch, but they were both still pictures.
Very, very interesting. I like the little flower animations and the butterflies. I think they're great. Yeah, what a fascinating story for your inspiration. I totally see a little bit of McQueen influence now that I know that.
He's the master.
And then here are two examples of avatars that you created for this project, and they're different but similar sort of in what we just looked at, and that there's animation and you're playing with color. And I'd love to hear what your creation process was for these. I think they're so fun.
Thanks. Yeah. You know what? I kind of had that fear, the same as Jennifer. I was scared when I was like, what am I gonna do? Van Gogh, I'm a huge fan of him. The story, everything. And I wanted to just kind of make him. So I went through loads of pictures, you name it, Pinterest, so many, I don't know what I was looking for, but I knew I had to find something that says that's it. That's the image you're going to use. And I found this really cool picture of I think it was a man on a magazine holding these neon lights, and and his head, holding it almost like a TV screen. But it felt like a dream, and I liked it. So what I did is as you can tell, there's the frame around the neon frame was the theme I wanted to use, and I love the self-portrait of Van Gogh. That one was my favorite because it looked, I don't know, for some reason for me it looked real, and it looked it looked like somebody I know actually. So I started to sketch on that, and so first I did the base, which is in Photoshop, and I moved on to After Effects. Actually, I also use my phone on some of them. I've got these really cool apps that can make this happen. And
Right.
yeah,
That's so impressive. Like a phone screen is so small. I just, you're blowing my mind that you're creating artwork on your phone. I think that's incredible.
Oh man, it's a powerful tool. Trust me. Yeah, yeah, some of them were created on straight away from the phone, and yeah, I wanted him to. I mean, two things I wanted. I wanted a dream. I wanted to make him look like a rock star, which is one of the which is the one on the left, and I wanted to make him, I guess, contemporary, and yeah, that's the theme I kind of wanted to work with, and I think what I've achieved, I didn't even know I was going to do, and I think I came up with about 50, but the ones I submitted were the ones I loved.
There are some really amazing ones that you did also with butterflies, which I didn't include here, but everybody should come back and check out the full collection when we drop, so that you can see all of the work. All right, thanks, Steve. Okay, and then Nicolina, thanks so much for your patience while we were going through that. I would love to.
Oh, I'm sorry, really quick. Someone had a question for Steve.
Great.
Steve, someone's curious which apps you use from your phone.
I could pop that in the chat, and yeah. Perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah, share the wisdom, share the tools. There are definitely a lot of artists on the call too, so that's great. Okay, Nicolina. All right. Okay. All right, Nicolina. I would love if you could talk a little bit about this series of work that you have that's so incredibly popular.
Yeah, well, some 9 years ago, I started to work on this series. It is called The Tale of the Blue Pear. And it is really a visual story about a woman who finds a secret passage in the mansion that she lived at. And on the other side of this passage, she finds these fantastical worlds of talking animals and half humans, and also she finds there her own alter egos, and anything is possible there. She can fly, she can travel through time. But on her way, she has lost her heart, and she is living there heartless, and she has to find her heart again, and her heart had taken the shape of a pear. So this is why we usually find this pear in almost all of my works. And basically, this is the short story, and this story is divided also into several chapters, and each chapter is covering specific environments. So this particular piece is from the In the Palace chapter, and I find inspiration in nature and in animals, and I use them in many of my artworks. This whole series of body of work has over 70 artworks, and it is still an ongoing body of work. And it usually contains also elements of allegory and irony and even humor.
Are all of the elements like all of the animals and, you know, the setting? Are these all elements that you have photographed yourself?
Yes,
Or
yes, everything is photographed by myself. In my own personal work, I use only my materials.
Wow.
So yeah, flamingos, these are mostly photographed in zoo, unfortunately, because I'm not able to travel that far to photograph them in their natural settings. But all of these are my own elements, and some of them are also illustrated. So, but also by me in iPad or in Photoshop.
Very, very cool. I really like your use of color, and you know, there's just so much, so many, like, you can see there are stories going on. I love this recurring theme of the pair that we see throughout the work. I think it's just so magical, and just really takes you to a more enjoyable place.
Yes, yeah. Yes, I like to use these subtle colors, and this process starts from the very beginning of the creation until the very end. I pay particular attention to lighting. I like this gentle, diffuse light. And like dreamy lighting, but I don't want it to look blurry, so I wanted everything to look clear but also dreamy. So I complicate things a lot, and sometimes it takes several days until I get it right. But in the end, it is always worth the. I work slowly, but I don't think I can rush these things. So.
What I really love about your avatars, which I'm going to scroll through to here are some examples, is that you can, when you look at them, they look so much like your work, right? You have incorporated so many elements of the environment that you've created. And as you said, like this dreamy light and these sort of fantastical, you know, just the plant life and the insects, and we have some you know, birds in here, and it just, you look at them and you think, oh, this is definitely Nicolina's work. And that's so great. And yeah, I would love if you would just talk a little bit about like what your approach was for this process and why you made some of the decisions that you did.
Yeah, at first I was also intimidated by the project. As Steve and Jennifer, I didn't know first of all how can I manage to do 10 to 20 avatars, because I really love to do detailed artwork, and it takes time. And I firstly thought that I will take two of Van Gogh self-portraits as my base, but then I decided only to take one because we had so many different traits that I really saw that I can create like many different characters just to change these traits on this one self-portrait. And I wanted him to be like a narrator of these worlds of mine. So once I placed him as a character in these surreal environments I do, everything became easier, because at first I really didn't know how he will fit into that. But after several pieces I've done, it just became easier and easier, and I decided to concentrate on 5 different settings, like this in the mansion settings with this overgrown vegetation and cheetah and animals, and then I placed him in these enchanted gardens, and then in outer space, and I wanted to do the beach environment. And in the end, I also wanted to place him when he actually lived in the 19th century. So I created him as this old Victorian gentleman. So it was very fun, and I really enjoyed how it turned out in the end. And the whole project, I was really amazing. It was amazing to see other artists, how they approached with their own style, and you and Chris were so helpful. I don't know how you managed to handle us all. Really, I have to congratulate you. So it was incredible, really.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's so great to hear. It was a bit of a blur, but it was so fun getting to work with everybody on this and, you know, to learn more and be more involved in everyone's practices. So it was a treat for us. We're at the hour mark, but I do really want to, you know, stick around for anybody who can stick around. Kelsey, if you need to hop, that is a-okay. I'd love to just, you know, open it up and see if anybody has any questions or comments that they, you know, want to share before we sign off. I think before anybody does sign off, the most important thing to know is that the pre-sale for this is happening on January 21st. If you would like more information and you would like to get on the reservation list, you can do so at saatchiart.com/NFT. That's where all the info is. There's a link to sign up to make a reservation. There is a link to our Discord where you can come in and chat with other collectors. And then one exciting thing that we're announcing today is that we are going to be unleashing the artists into the collector channels for the Discord. So for all of our collectors who are hanging out in Discord, get ready because the artists are coming in. They'll be available to talk with you all and, you know, share their inspiration about Van Gogh and, you know, just create a little bit more fun and have a little bit more of a creative community going on here. So keep an eye out for them and feel free to ping them and ask questions and, you know, learn more about the works that you're really interested in. I don't see any questions coming in. Steve, Nicolina, Jennifer, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to share maybe about the project at all that I didn't ask you? Or, you know, if not, that's totally fine too.
No, no, I'm fine.
Okay. No parting words. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay. Oh, good question. What part was the most difficult? Jennifer wants to field it. Let's do it.
Yeah, honestly, I think for me personally, one of the most difficult parts was not sharing anything or telling anyone about it. Like that really was like, oh, don't do that. Like, this looks cool, but like, no, just wait. Actually, that was a big challenge. And I think it made me think a lot about like being an artist and creating art, like kind of in the dark. Without, you know, sharing it with people. And I originally wasn't thinking of like sharing works in progress, but then I was like, I need someone to see this, which is why I was like so grateful to be able to have the chats with you, Monty, and then, you know, also Chris. Again, I can't imagine how you guys did that, but yeah, that was definitely a challenge. It's just not showing anybody and being quiet.
It was so fun to see all the work coming in and works in progress. I know it was really hard to keep everything under wraps, but it was so great to see stuff sort of rolling in and have all the comments from all the artists talking about the work and, you know, encouraging one another. That was like another thing that I just love to see, that everybody was so supportive and appreciating each other's styles. And yeah, it was really amazing. We have another question that says, were you surprised during any part of the creation process? So did anything like shock you about, you know, what you were doing or catch you in a new way? I know some of you mentioned like being surprised that you were able to do so much work in such a short period of time.
Yeah, I think for me was that I was worried if I could deliver. I just wanted to deliver 10. And I ended up making 50 pieces, maybe more. But yeah, I got addicted to it. I got obsessed. I feel like I just wanted to see more characters of Van Gogh. And I just kept playing with it. But it was hard to decide which one to send. But it was yeah, it was really fun. It was good fun. It was good fun. But yeah, that was quite surprising, seeing how amazing it just, you know, it grows. And yeah. Yeah, I love the process, and I've never done anything like it, so that was pretty cool.
Thanks. One question, how do you balance digital and real materials, i.e. real paint and digital? I know, Steve, for you, it was very digital. Jennifer, for you, it was mostly paint. Nicolina, like, did you paint your avatars and then integrate them into the digital works?
No, I used the self-portrait. I think it was the same self-portrait of Van Gogh that Steve used.
Mhm.
But I completely reworked it to match my own environments, because my environments are quite realistic. My style is very realistic, although the themes are quite unreal. But I wanted him to become a more realistic character, and we know his style is quite different than that. So I reworked him, and then I placed it into my own settings.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I think there were a lot of artists who did have an approach of both physical and digital mediums, and sort of integrated like the process of creating a digital work and then reworking it with physical materials. So they may not be on the call right now, but there were many. And hop in the Discord if you want to chat and learn more about some of the other artists' processes as well. I want to quickly circle back and answer that question that was asked previously about future NFT projects. Yes, we are really looking forward to being able to have more NFT projects in the future. And if you are an interested artist, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at curator@SaatchiArt.com. Join the Discord and share your work in the Share Your Art channel, and we'll be going through and connecting with artists who we think might be interested in working with us in the future. So stay tuned for that. And then last question I think that we can take is this one that says, do you feel any more connected to the physical or digital piece? Perhaps you can answer that one, Jennifer, seeing as you did make physical works for this process.
Sure. So I would say I probably feel the same connection to both, but I've thought about this a lot, in that the digital version, and my painting, like my avatars are all oil paintings, and they were just scanned, and so that they are digital files. So nothing was done to them digitally after I completed them. But the digital painting, I feel like, has the potential to go much farther than the physical one, because I can imagine, there's people who will really want the physical piece because they're not really into the NFT space, and they just are not like there yet, so they just want a physical piece of art. But once I sell that art to them, it's gone. Like it's not with me anymore. Like if they resell it, I won't know. And so, there's definitely a connection there, but because I do have the digital works, it's like I can always go back and see it and like know what it was like, and share it with other people. And, as Steve mentioned earlier, still get royalties from the sales. And so I think I'm definitely really connected with the physical piece because that's the actual work that I did. But I think the digital piece has a lot greater potential.
Longer lifespan.
Yeah, longer lifespan, exactly.
Interesting. Thank you for that. That's really an interesting insight. We have one question here that's just about get physicals and NFTs and purchasing the physical for people who do end up purchasing one of the tokens from the artist. This is something that we are currently working on trying to figure out. So hop into our Discord, where we're sort of having an ongoing discussion about some of the benefits for token holders and what the sale is going to look like for the physical artworks. It is still TBD. It's something that we are working on, but join us in Discord and we'll continue that conversation, and very happy to answer any other questions there as well. So Nicolina, Steve, Jennifer, thank you guys so much for being here today and for giving us so much time to talk about what it is that you do. It's so amazing. And I think just, a fantastic opportunity for collectors to learn more about you, to connect with your work, and for you to help inspire other artists to pursue what they love doing, which is to create art. So thank you so much for this. It's been really a privilege.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for joining as well. Hope to see
Yeah.
you in Discord, and please do sign up for that reservation list if you're interested in joining us for the pre-sale to buy one of these NFTs.
Okay.
Oh. Bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.